Om Samatha Sadguru Sri Sainadhaya Namaha. Sai Baba and his teachings. Now, let us reflect a little on the two accounts of Sai Baba's meeting with the Guru and serving him. The perfect Guru never tries to parade himself as such and is characterized by unconditional love for the welfare of fellow beings. He proffers guidance only to those who can recognize and respond to his love. But again, he does not try to lure them into his discipleship on any false promises or self glorification. He does not even try to demonstrate his love in any showy manner. He does not make any fuss of it. His simplicity and livelihood too are spontaneous and natural and not assumed. He does not try to marvel and astound people through a display of any miraculous powers. He does not indulge in all the jugglery of words of sophists as show of erudition. He cares little for philosophical hair splitting and has no childish craving for saying something original and new. He does not claim to have any divine mission to save mankind or herald a new age in the spiritual history of mankind. No claims of Godhead. Their way is just like that of a mother feeding her children. They do not put all show of religiosity, the holier than thou attitude. Yet their immense love and the power of their realization are unmistakable, and their very silent presence is enough to win the unconditional and total surrender of the deserving soul. The real master does not demand surrender, it must be noted. He just conquers the heart silently by his power and love. As Mrs. Manager records in her impressions of Sai Baba, there is no room for any doubt in such a one's presence. A mysterious confidence and courage that no harm can overtake them rests in his devotee's heart. He does not tell his devotees not to seek wisdom elsewhere, nor forbids them from visiting any other teacher. Only when that devotee of his own accord and free will sticks on sufficiently long to him, only when the discipleship state is complete, this master speaks out with a complete authority that he will protect him wherever he is by his omniscient and omnipotent love. It is important to note in the above account that the worthy disciple just forget all about his possessions and home, and he was not specifically instructed either to live with them or to surrender them for the master's mission. Indeed, the real master is only a giver and never demands for anything. Even the final demand for the meager dakshina, it should be noted, is not for the coins. In fact, it is the final and the only teaching that matters. He is assured of protection and guidance wherever he is. To keep this in clear view through the loving remembrance of the Guru is the first coin. The courage to face and accept every situation without being anxious about the results is the second coin. A little thought would reveal that, in fact, this final teaching is the implication of the cardinal teaching, Allah Malik. The first paisa is the first word in the phrase, and the second word is the second paisa. Together they represent the spiritual state of the master. Under the show of demanding dakshina, the master has indeed given himself totally to the service and protection of the disciple. In spirit, it is the Guru that affords dakshina, and it is for the disciple not to lose it. It is evident that one cannot be a teacher without being a living manifestation of the heart of his teaching. He is the way and the goal, and such is true life. It is important to note that the Guru has not told the chela to do anything, nor did he prohibit anything. The disciple himself has to decide these matters in the light of his only task of standing up to the dakshina he has offered to the Guru. The spirit of this demand for dakshina is brought out by the beautiful story in the Hindu spiritual lore. A disciple who was enlightened by the grace of his master wondered what he could offer his teacher in return as an expression of his gratitude. The master said, "Keep to this state of realization, and that is the only dakshina I demand." In the complete account of this episode, Sai Baba mentions clearly that he silently bowed to his master. It is worth pointing out the Hindu gestures of salutation, a joining of the two palms together, signifies this promise on his part made to his master. The hands which a man naturally uses in striving and craving and perhaps in fighting are now joined together in surrender to the protection and guidance of the omniscient and omnipotent Guru. While one of the palms represents the first paisa, the second palm the second paisa. The joining of the two teaches us that Nishta has to be supported by Saburi and Saburi has to be supported by Nishta. These two together henceforth constitute his heart, his whole attitude to the life. The gesture of bowing the head is an acknowledgement of the realization that there actually is no such entity as the self in him beyond what God has created and what he guides. The disciple sees the loving manifestation of the truth in the Guru, and having realized the truth unresolvedly assents to it, that is bowing. As a sincere and heartfelt expression of this recognition, the act of bowing follows only after the disciple is won over by the genuine experience of his master's love. Such salutation was not made by Baba as a mere formality and at the outset. We must remember how Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa encouraged young Vivekananda to test him as much as he needed and accept him only when he is certain. It is only the ignorant, self-styled gurus that demand salutation, obedience, surrender, and unwavering faith in them as conditions to realize. Without having learned from experience that the Guru is worthy of such, it is mere hypocrisy to do so. That is why Sai Baba used to put it cryptically, all the dealings here are in cash and never in credit. Note the pun on credit. It is also important to note that Sai Baba, who was actually aware of his own inadequacy at the outset of the episode, did not timidly cover before the learning of his three companions. They spelt out loftily words of Vedanta and ego-satisfying trends of self-effort. He bowed his head only where he found realization. In today's market of spiritual trade, faith is an advance payment demanded upon us in return for goods, the value of which we can learn only afterwards. On the other hand, with a genuine master, experience comes first and faith based on it follows as a matter of course, as spontaneous gratitude and acknowledgement. In the life of Sai Baba too, most of his devotees were won over by him through experience. In this context, it may be useful for me to mention my own encounter with a genuine Guru. I visited him in the dense forest of Chintapalli, Andhra Pradesh, and formally bowed him. Pat came the interrogation. What do you know of me that you should take trouble of coming all the way and bowing to me? Do you want me to suppose that you have recognized my worth at a glance? If that were the case, I would have to bow to you and there is nothing more for you to seek. Is it not proper for a young man like me to bow before holy ones like you? I asked. Are you sure that I am a holy man? Am I to take on your word that you are a genuine seeker of holiness? Do you wish to bribe me with your salutation? If you bow to me without knowing what I am, does not it mean that you take me for a fool who can be pleased by such a show? He said. Then, what am I expected to do? I asked, totally knocked down and baffled. That is right. It is where you have to begin learning. He said, you can plainly say that you are in search of the meaning and purpose of life and you wish to know what I had learnt. You must be fearless to challenge whatever I have got to say and closely observe what I am. Only when you find that I am worthy, you may acknowledge it by bowing. Immediately I bowed him. Explain yourself, he again demanded. I have learned something now and so I bowed. I said, no one has told me so before. Sir, I submitted. When I started on my quest, I met some sannyasis. In my innocence and anxiety, I sat down in front of them for an informal talk. One after the other, they told me that if I am not humble enough, that is, if I am too proud and arrogant of my own intelligence, I can hope to gain anything from them. Even before I completed my statement, the master thundered, "Let them knock down the pride if they can, else you have nothing to do with them. To try to submit earlier is a show of humanity and farce. Be brave. Nothing can happen against God's will. The realization is only for the courageous, and courage is the true spirit of all other such truths or nothing as a total surrender or no surrender at all. Till then, it can only be existing of individuals sharing knowledge and experience. The readiness to share the spirit of equality is the spirit of love. He who does not know that all the creatures are equal in the eyes of God is unfit to be a teacher." As I heard what he said about formal salutation, I was reminded of what Dr. Lowen says about Masochishi character. They are too ready and willing to cooperate with the psychotherapist, but it is a cover of their inner resistance and hostility. The final statement of this teacher reminded me of the fact that Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi addressed every one of his devotees and even other creatures with the utmost reverence. Sai Baba too dealt with everyone in perfect sense of equality, but without a show of formal courtesy. It was this incident that reminded me of this detail in Sai Baba's account of his own encounter with his guru. The parallelism was clear. Both these masters met seekers in dense woods. This teacher too greeted me by first inviting me to eat. Both the teachers looked like common people, and neither has put up show. There was nothing queer or impressive about their dress and manner. This reminds me another minor incident. I saw the greatest of the Avadutas I have ever met at Pundi, a village near Tiruvanmalai. One day, some devotee removed the torn, soiled clothes from the master's body and dressed him in beautiful silk, profusely garlanded him. I noticed that the master was looking at his new dress in strange manner, muttering something to himself with a fancy twinkle in his eye. I asked him what he thought of it all, a monkey show or a cattle show. What else would a monkey do if a beautiful garland is given to it? He replied. I was shocked to note how a genuine master would feel about all the fuss which credulous people make up them. The master meant that people were trying to put him up on show as if he were a monkey performing impossible tricks or four-footed creature on sale. In the next statement, he implied that a genuine master is like a beautiful garland, but the ignorant folk do not know how to use it properly, and instead, like the ignorant monkeys, they treat them in the queerest fashion without deriving anything worthwhile in the process. At once, the teeming armies of many self-styled gurus I saw in the past flashed in my memory. With what grateful joy they quote all this fuss, and how childish of them is of the story of blind leading the blind. Confusion versus confounded. A tale told by idiots of a sound and fury signifying nothing. Indeed, I thought Sai Baba was right when he said true teachers are few and far between. Similarly, the Avadutas of Kalahasti too banged me at our our first meeting. Rogue, why do you bow to me? You are the great master, and so I bowed. I said, what is the great about me? He asked. You have realized the self. I replied, what if? Do you congratulate a man for keeping himself clean? It may be repugnant if he is otherwise, but it is quite natural to keep. Realization is ultimately keeping one's heart totally clean, and there is nothing to congratulate such a one or to praise him. It is just like that, he said. What abyss of difference between the true and false teachers. Perhaps it is to corroborate every letter of his account of his own discipleship that Sai Baba inspired me to visit so many masters, true and false. In one of his queer reminiscences, Sai Baba tells us that he once served a fakir. The latter was one day invited to a feast in the village, and he took young Baba to that home. He ate to his full fill and told Sai Baba to carry delicious food home. By the time Sai Baba reached home, the fakir too was 3 and was there and sat for another bout of eating. At the end of the narration, Sai Baba frankly says that such a one cannot be a true fakir and that true fakirs are rare. The teaching is clear. One can serve and help anyone and serve with loving reverence that is due to any creature of God. But one should not bow down before everyone in false humility and show of faith. So far, we have noted the hallmark of a real master in the way he deals with those who come to him. One thing remains to be considered. While three of his companions failed to recognize the love of the woodcutter in the dense forest, how could Sai Baba to do so? How did he prepare himself that he was accepted by the Guru? For while the problem of identifying and contacting a real Guru is one side of the question, the problem of being a worthy recipient of his grace is another. For either of this, Sai Baba has indicated a way. He made the devotee Kusabhavu study the Guru Charitra, an account of two great real masters, Sripada Srivallabha and Sri Narasimha Saraswati 108 times and visit Gangapur as often as possible. The rest of the time he kept Kusabhavu in his own presence and made him study the holy texts. Let us remember how he encouraged Dasganu Maharaj to compose and sing the lives of great saints and to visit them. The study of the lives and teachings of real masters, visiting the places of such holy men, and association with a real living Mahatma who could win our surrender or the infallible means. In one of the accounts of his previous existence, he mentioned that he, along with a few of his present devotees, moved with a real master. Nowhere has he mentioned that he prayed to this god or that, observed any rituals. We find him more than a conscientious worker who treated all his fellow creatures with all their reverence due to a creature of God, whatever may be their individual merits or demerits. Such an honest living coupled with the service of a real masters is what had prepared him for the final meeting. Even after Kusababu had contacted him, he found it necessary to make the latter study Guru Charitra and such other holy texts as Gnaneshwari and Dasabodha, for it is obvious that precisely his lack of preparation is what had misled him in service of his earlier Guru, Datta Maharaj. The study of Guru Charitra and other texts is firstly intended to impress on his heart what he looks for from a Guru. Secondly, it enables him to know what a real Guru is like. Thirdly, it teaches him what a disciple should be, and this constitutes the preparation. All the other texts he has recommended to his devotees contain the qualities of those who have genuine realization, like the ways of Gnani, enlightened, Bhakta, the faithful, and the Sthitaprajna, one who has established in wisdom in the Bhagavad Gita. This enabled him to recognize the real master when he encountered one. Trying to live up to their teaching in our daily life is the preparation. Wherever and whenever we fail to apply them to certain so-called minor and unimportant aspects of our life, the teaching of the Master helps us to do so. But the chief function of the study of lives of real gurus is to strengthen in us the longing to contact such a one. These gurus, as we have already observed, are the agents of God, expressions of His mercy for mankind. They too, on their part, would hunger for devotees who are capable of receiving their grace and teaching. For ultimately, that is the will of God which functions through them. When our yearning to contact them grows strong enough, the cosmic harmony itself helps us to contact a real Guru who is most suited to our peculiar spiritual makeup. How quickly such a contact proves fruitful depends on the depth of one's preparation. The best thing for a seeker, therefore, is to first study the lives and teaching of a number of real gurus. Gradually, in course of time, our heart chooses one of them as a master akin to his own loving. When that happens, we should go on devoutly studying his life and teaching and trying our best to mold our life accordingly. Apart from this, a daily devout study of Sri Guru Charitra and Sri Guru Gita alone with heartfelt prayer for spiritual guidance is found to have led several souls to their appropriate teacher. In this process, nothing is left to chance. We have no need to depend upon our own limited powers of understanding and judgment in choosing our Guru. The very self in us would, in an unquestionable manner, direct us to him. It also provides a way to avoid of a trial and error, waste of time and energy, and perhaps money, and the risks of misdirection by false gurus. It is always safer to confine oneself to acknowledge real masters of earlier times of Sri Guru Charitra. As such, if we try to study the lives and teachings of living Mahatmas, in most cases it is possible that their devotees, in their exaggerated zeal, present their master in the most golden of colors and often vie with each other in doing so. During the last 2 decades, I have seen many of them subsequently backing out every statement of theirs and getting thoroughly disillusioned about their former masters. In some cases, the price they had to pay was too high, and some of them have become rank skeptics who have lost all faith in spiritual wisdom. If indeed these living masters are genuine and are suited to our spiritual nature, the study of Sri Guru Charitra and Sri Guru Gita automatically leads us to them. This does not, however, mean that all those to whom we are not led are false gurus. Whether they are so or not is none of our business. It is enough we can take care of our own business. But as nowadays this has become a craze and fad, a few suggestions may not be out of place. No genuine spiritual master tries to highlight any particular religious tradition at the expense of others. The wise know that truth is invaluable wherever it is found, and untruth deserves to be totally neglected wherever it is. They also know that no race, community, or religion has ever been left unprovided by the merciful Lord of true guidance, and also that all true guidance is almost identical in all the religious traditions. Hence, there can be no preference. So too, they do not identify themselves with any nation or caste, and their teaching defines any such labeling. Nothing that is divine in creation has any denomination. The sky, the earth, the air and water, fire and food and all else. How then can truth have any such denomination? If at all they make any distinction, they recognize only two classes of people: those who seek righteous living and those who do not. They have no illusions that by meddling with the different and private affairs of those who have no need for spiritual wisdom can of any use either to them or to anyone. They also know that the seekers of wisdom can pursue their quest under any conditions. Where there is a will, there is a way. They know that truth needs to advertisement. Those who want only truth are not carried away by propaganda. Their only standard of judgment is personal experience. At the same time, no amount of advertisement can raise untruth to the world of truth, and it benefits none except in terms of monetary gain. The wise ones also scrupulously avoid regimentation of their devotees. They know the horror of mixing the already existing confusion and chaos caused by the many organizations, and they do not want to add to it. Those who are thirsty cannot help but go in search of potable water, and those who hunger and thirst for wisdom go all out in such a way and never rest till they find. In consequence, they avoid all kinds of unnecessary ritualism that only confuses the main issue and hides the truth. The devotee who is awakened by the spiritual impact of the Guru of his own accord may improvise some form of a spiritual discipline that suits his own need. It is only such that the master approve of. The kind of regimentation that is now being perpetrated by several spiritual organizations and is being encouraged by their gurus is ultimately an expression of a paid sense of position, a fear of losing one's devotees to another guru or organization. The real art of living consists in one's ability to mix with others, whereas this regimentation builds nothing but spiritual pride, that is, holier than thou attitude in the members of the organization. Their sense of rivalry and competition with the volunteers of other organizations is a mark of their failure to live naturally. Ultimately, religious life is a matter of nothing. What ultimately matters in life and living accordingly, dispensing all other vanities and illusions of which beyond doubt the effects of regimentation are the worst. Even if those organizations make an effort to love and to serve the needy, it boils down to a show of goodness, which all true feelings show like. Instead of where it belongs, that is normal day to day life of everyone as an individual, they make it a show and put it in a museum, so to say. Such service never wins the proper response from the recipients. They look upon it only as a utility, as a thing to be used with no love and affection. At best, it is a comfort and luxury, while the true art of living in them by spiritual wisdom consists in the utterly natural and simple living. Organized discipline is the very reverse of it. The latter may have certain immediate advantages in achieving some targets and then introducing a method in madness, but true wisdom consists in curing and fundamental madness which modern cultures and civilization have infused in us. The principle of regimentation again leads to the ugly denomination of proselytization, each group trying to seduce and lure the members of the other group to itself. When we turn to the real masters of present times like Swami Samartha of Akkalkota, Sai Baba of Shirdi, and Tajuddin Baba and others, we do not find them encouraging such herding instinct among their followers. A large number of devotees of Sai Baba were also devoted to others, and none of the great gurus ever told them to confine themselves to one. Freedom is a God given gift to a man, and to use it with a due discrimination and insight in the way of spiritual perfection is the highest privilege he has granted us. Let us remember that no real guru went on making claims to his own teaching. But today, we see many organizations trying to make people feel prestigious of belonging to their group and thereby making spiritual quest a cheap fad. God or the spirit is only on display in public showrooms. Either it is everywhere or nowhere, even like the air we breathe. Therefore, no guru goes on denying that one spiritual path is superior to any other. For true spirituality begins with the annihilation of such false concepts as superior or inferior. Each path is as valuable to the one who is suited to it. It is only the commercial organizations that weigh with each other and outstrip the others. Similarly, it is important to remember that no true master ever laid any campaign for or against anything in tradition. They just did not care for any tradition. If what they do and say in their wisdom incidentally agrees with any tradition, they do not mind it. The real master knows that no two individuals are alike and deals with each individually, setting right any attitude of his that is necessary. They know that if proper standards of judgment and discrimination are inculcated, men would be capable of taking care of the rest. Mention must be made of claims to instant realization and shortcuts to perfection. As we have seen earlier, where there is a true love and true love for wisdom, it never occurs to anyone as to how long they should go on with and how far they have to go for it. Love and burning desire for anything makes a man unmindful of the effort he has to put in for it. It naturally follows that anyone who seeks a shortcut or an easier path does not actually need the final result. He only craves for the recognition which he imagines to bring him, and unless the craving for recognition dies, even the shortest of the spiritual paths, if there be such a path at all, would prove to be the longest and hardest. Unless the craving for recognition dies, no man can ever be spiritual. It is the nature of the spirit to be subtle and imperceptible. The whole of nature that one finds teaches us the same, and God himself in all his glory never begs recognition of anybody. It is a we who want him so that our miserable existence may end and we could live in peace and contentment. A word must be said of miracles. Mankind has a weakness for forecasting and naturally flock to those who are famed for their mysterious knowledge of the past and the future. A true seeker should remember that Lord Krishna, the Buddha, the Christ, Prophet Muhammad, and more recently, none of the great real masters mentioned so far ever indulged in such nonsense. Not that such things do not exist. I only mean that they are totally irrelevant to the business of our life. If someone tells us that such wish of ours could be fulfilled in about 6 months, we have to think whether he is only telling what would anyway happen or he is making such a thing happen. Many people seems to suppose that the latter is the case. If that were so, why can't he make it happen much sooner? More absurd are the other miracles like a materialization. No such has ever produced whatever we claim spontaneously on the spot of the moment. You are told to accept whatever the materializes, and he can materialize only that and nothing else. Such obviously are the cases of mysterious transference, if at all, but more commonly it is the sleight of the hand and the credulity of the masters that does the trick. True miracles are of different order. No such ever happens without bringing a new realization to the man. Thus, we see that of the myriad of miracles that happen through Sai Baba of Shirdi were of such as to make people aware that one universal consciousness manifests itself in all the forms of in nature. They impress the imperative need to create every creature as oneself and to love them accordingly. Or to put it differently, that all creation is divine and whatever we do to the least of his creatures is what we ultimately do to him. Can there be anything like a torturing that child without a tormenting its mother? God is the all unknown mother, father, and teacher in one. The real teacher too is all these. If Sai Baba fulfills the wishes of most of his devotees, there is a subtle wisdom behind that act. He thereby puts every creature that is so benefited under an obligation to learn what he wishes to teach. If they fail to learn, it is only a matter of time that they will be forced to do so. He said, Maya sustains him who forgets him, and I will never allow mankind to fall or to go away from me. There is nothing theatrical about the real master, and he is never a showboy. On the other hand, those who closely lived with him report that the real master is always totally engrossed in the incessant experience of self and is almost oblivious of the world around, like a child at play. They thus respond momentarily to the call of the devotee, and the next moment they are the self again. The showboy guru is one who tries to look like the real teacher or the other in his dress, appearance, gestures, and all else. Some of them are more varied in their madness. They try to look like different Mahatmas at different times, don the garbs and outer symbols of different religions at different moments. It is always untruth that tries to look like truth. Truth does not look like anything else and perhaps not even like itself. Therefore, it is so difficult to discover it, but so easy to cover it up. Unfortunately, those who have proper preparation for meeting the real guru have nothing to fear from this. Such a one, like the wise customer, is not carried away by all the fuss all this fuss and show. He counts and measures the goods, assess them, and only then pays the price. Above all, such a one does not have to hang around these spiritual liquor shops. When he is ready, he would receive a cordial invitation, and he cannot resist the call of love. Spiritual governance of the universe has its own mysterious ways of communication. It is always a communication from heart to the heart, from spirit to the spirit, and there is no mistake anywhere. Om Samartha Sadguru Sri Sai Nadhaya Namaha.